My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 28 years old. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, where everybody knows everybody and family ties run deep, at least on the surface. People around us always thought my mom, Linda, was the kind of woman who'd do anything for her kids. To the outside world, she wore that role perfectly, smiling at PTA meetings, hosting Thanksgiving dinners, offering advice like she had the world figured out. But behind closed doors, life with her was complicated. Ever since I was little, my birthdays weren't really about me. They were about her. The way she could show off to relatives with a pretty cake or new decorations. Don't get me wrong, she always made sure there was something for me to unwrap. But it wasn't about the gift. It was about the image. She wanted to be praised for being that mom who went all out. When I was 12, I remember tucking away my first $50 bill for my Aunt Claire. "Don't spend it all at once," she'd said with a wink. I didn't. I put it in an envelope under my mattress. And that became a habit. Every year after that, no matter what anyone gave me, cash, a gift card, I saved it. It wasn't even about greed. I just wanted something of my own. Something untouched by mom's controlling hands. By the time I turned 21, I had nearly $3,000 tucked away in a shoebox. I would sometimes take it out late at night and count it, dreaming about the day I could use it. Maybe for a trip to New York or a professional course, or even to help with grad school. It was my secret, my lifeline. But secrets don't last forever. The year I turned 24, my cousin Megan was about to celebrate her sweet 16. She was the golden child of our extended family, the straight-A student, cheerleader, and everyone's darling. Her mom, my Aunt Janet, wanted to throw a big party, but money was tight. That's when my mom decided to step in. "Family helps family," she told me one night over dinner, stirring her spaghetti like it was no big deal. And Megan deserves something special. I didn't think much of it, until the morning I went to grab my savings to add another birthday envelope. The shoebox was gone. At first, I thought maybe I'd misplaced it. I tore apart my closet, lifted the mattress, even pulled out drawers. Nothing. My chest tightened. My heart pounded in my ears. Finally, I went downstairs, pale and shaking. Mom was in the kitchen, sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. "Mom," I croaked. "Where's my box? The one with my birthday money." She didn't even flinch. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Oh, that. I used it." I froze. "You what? You used it? For what?" "For Megan's party," she said, like it was obvious. She only turned 16 once. It's important. She needed a dress, the DJ deposit, the venue. You'll understand one day. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Years of saving, gone in an instant, and for a party that wasn't even mine. "You had no right," I whispered, my voice trembling. Her expression hardened. "Don't be dramatic, Emily. It's family money. You'll get over it. Besides, what were you even saving for? You don't need it right now." That was her way, making my feelings seem small, selfish, unworthy. But this time, something inside me cracked. I locked myself in my room, pressed my face into my pillow, and sobbed until I was hoarse. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal. The way she decided my dreams didn't matter. The way she dismissed my years of discipline like they were nothing. For weeks, I couldn't look at her without my stomach twisting. At Megan's party, I stood in the corner, watching the DJ set up, the girls laughing in their glittery dresses, and all I could think was, this was supposed to be mine. That should have been my trip, my future. But the world didn't stop. Life went on. I got older, got my first real job in marketing, moved into a small apartment, and I told myself I'd forget about it. Still, every time I opened my bank app and saw my meager balance, I remembered that shoebox. I remembered Mom's voice saying, "You don't need it right now." She was wrong. I did need it. Maybe not for bills or groceries, but for something much bigger. My sense of worth. My belief that what I worked for could be mine to keep. That I wasn't just an extension of her decisions. The anger never went away. It simmered, low and steady, like an ember waiting for air. Then 5 years later, the air finally came. It started with a phone call from Aunt Claire. She wanted to meet me for lunch. "There's something you should know," she said in a voice that carried a weight I couldn't quite place. I didn't realize it then, but that lunch would reveal a truth my mom had hidden for years. A truth that would give me back more than I'd ever lost. The restaurant Aunt Claire chose was a little Italian place tucked into a quiet street downtown. The kind with red checkered tablecloths, dim lights, and the smell of garlic bread seeping into the air the moment you walked in. It was cozy, comforting, though I was too anxious to enjoy any of it. When I walked in, she was already there, sitting at a corner booth. Her auburn hair, streaked with gray now, was pulled back in a clip, and she gave me that familiar warm smile that always made me feel like I mattered. Unlike Mom, Aunt Claire never made me feel like I was an afterthought. "Emily," she said, standing to hug me, "you look wonderful." "You too," I said, sliding into the booth across from her. But I couldn't shake the unease curling in my stomach. Her tone on the phone had been serious, almost urgent. The waiter came, we ordered, and after a few pleasantries, Aunt Claire leaned forward, folding her hands on the table. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you for a long time. I should have told you years ago, but I trusted your mother to do the right thing. And now I realize she didn't." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Her eyes softened with regret. "You remember all those birthdays when I gave you envelopes with cash?" I nodded. How could I forget? Those were the very gifts I had hoarded in my shoebox. "Well," she continued, "what I didn't tell you was that I always gave you more than just what you saw in the envelope. I also set up a certificate of deposit in your name, one for each year, from your 12th birthday until you turned 21. It was my way of helping you save for your future, quietly, without anyone interfering. I told your mother about it. She promised she would keep the documents safe until you were old enough to use them." My jaw dropped. "Certificates of deposit? Like real accounts? In my name?" "Yes." She nodded, guilt flickering across her face. By now, they should have matured to a decent sum, especially with the interest. "Emily, I assumed you already knew. That's why I never asked. But last month, when we were sorting through some old files at my house, I came across a copy of the original paperwork. And it hit me, you've never once mentioned using those funds. That's when I realized maybe your mother never told you." I sat frozen, my fork clattering against the plate. Heat flushed through me, followed by a chill that made my hands tremble. She never said a word. Aunt Claire's eyes darkened. I suspected as much. Linda always had a way of making everything revolve around her. But to keep something like this from you? That's unforgivable. The room spun around me. My mother hadn't just stolen my shoebox savings. She had stolen years of careful, hidden gifts meant for me. Money that could have changed my life. Do you know how much it is?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Not exactly," Aunt Claire admitted. "But if those CDs were rolled over properly every term, we're talking tens of thousands by now." I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white. Tens of thousands. Meanwhile, I'd spent years scraping by, watching my peers move forward, while I counted every penny. "She kept it," I whispered, my throat burning. "She took it from me." Aunt Claire reached across the table, resting her hand over mine. "You have every right to be angry. But listen to me, Emily, you can still claim it. These accounts were opened in your name. That means legally, they're yours. If your mother has been accessing them, she's been doing it behind your back. You should look into it. Immediately." Her words lit a fire inside me. For years, I had buried my anger, told myself it was just money, tried to swallow the betrayal. But this wasn't just about money. This was about deception, about control, about being robbed of my future. That night, when I got home, I dug through every drawer, every cabinet in my apartment, searching for anything Mom might have given me over the years. Nothing. Not a single scrap of evidence about those CDs. So the next day, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I called the bank. After a few transfers and explanations, a woman in customer service confirmed what Aunt Claire had told me. "Yes, Miss Carter, there are indeed multiple certificates of deposit under your name. But I see here that they've already been liquidated." My heart stopped. Liquidated?
When?
Most of them, she said, scrolling through her system, were closed out by her custodian, Linda Carter, over the years. The last one, however, is still active and set to mature in 3 months. It currently has a balance of... She rattled off a figure that made me dizzy. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life. Wait, I stammered. So, it's still mine? I can still access it.
Yes.
Once it matures, you can withdraw it directly. As the account holder, you have full rights. I thanked her, hung up, and sat in stunned silence on my couch. My mother had drained most of the accounts years ago, but one she must have overlooked, still existed. And it was worth enough to change everything. For the first time in years, I felt something other than despair. I felt power. But along with it came rage. How many times had Mom watched me struggle? How many times had she let me believe I was broke, that I had no safety net, when in reality she had stolen mine? She'd looked me in the eye, dismissed my pain, and gone on living like she had the right to everything that was mine. The image of her sipping coffee that morning after Megan's party came rushing back, her casual dismissal, her cold words. It's family money. You don't need it right now. Well, I did need it, and I was going to take it, but I wasn't just going to quietly withdraw the money and move on.
No.
That wasn't enough. For once in my life, I wanted my mother to see me, to know I had found out, to know that her lies hadn't buried me, that I had risen above them. I wanted her to feel what I had felt all those years ago, the shock, the betrayal, the helplessness. And this time, I wasn't the powerless little girl hiding in her room. I was 28, independent, and armed with the truth. So, I began to plan. Not just how to cash the CD, but how to let her know, in no uncertain terms, that she couldn't take everything from me. That her reign over my choices, my dreams, my future, it was over. The ember inside me had finally found its flame. The night after I confirmed the account with the bank, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts racing like wildfire. Every memory of my mother's dismissive words replayed in my head. It's family money.
You don't need it right now.
The lies weren't just about cash, they were about control. She had taken my future and parceled it out for other people, people she thought were more deserving than me. Megan's sweet 16. Some other family emergencies. Probably even for her own bills and vanity projects. It wasn't just theft, it was betrayal dressed up as responsibility. And now, here I was, sitting on the knowledge that one account had survived her scavenging. One deposit Aunt Claire had tucked away for me had slipped through her greedy fingers. It was mine legally and rightfully mine. But the question wasn't just about taking it. It was about what I was going to do with it. I could have kept quiet, cashed it out, lived better, moved on. But that wasn't enough. Not after what she'd done. I needed her to know she hadn't won. The next morning, I went into the office early. My marketing job wasn't glamorous, cubicles, spreadsheets, too much coffee, but it was steady. And it gave me something Mom could never take: independence. Still, I couldn't focus on my tasks. The idea of reclaiming what she'd hidden from me kept pulling my mind away from the screen. During lunch, I called Aunt Claire. She drained most of them, I said, pacing outside on the sidewalk with my phone pressed to my ear. But one's still alive. It's maturing in 3 months. Silence on the other end, then a sharp intake of breath. Emily, that money is yours. Don't let her touch it. I won't, I promised. But I can't just walk away from this like nothing happened. She took everything else. I want her to know I found out. That she can't keep doing this to me. Aunt Claire hesitated. I understand. But be careful. Your mother, she won't take it well. She never does when she's caught. She was right. My mother was a master at twisting narratives, making herself the victim, painting anyone who opposed her as selfish or cruel. That's how she'd kept control over me all those years.
But now?
Now I wasn't a child. That night, I decided to test the waters. I drove to my parents' house, a modest 2-story with peeling paint and the same creaky porch swing I'd sat on as a kid. My heart pounded as I rang the doorbell. Mom opened the door, surprised to see me. Her blonde hair, though streaked with gray now, was still styled in her signature perfect bob. Emily, this is a surprise. I wanted to talk, I said, forcing calm into my voice. She led me inside, where the smell of her pot roast filled the kitchen. Dad was in his recliner, eyes glued to the TV, barely looking up. That was typical, he let her run the show. We sat at the table, and I dove in before I lost my nerve. I talked to Aunt Claire yesterday. Her eyes flickered just slightly. Oh, how is she? She told me about the CDs she set up for me. The ones you promised to keep safe. Her spoon froze midway to her mouth. For a moment, her mask cracked. Then she set it down, narrowing her eyes. I don't know what she told you, but that money was managed the way it needed to be. Families have needs, Emily. And you've always had a roof over your head, haven't you? Food on the table? Clothes on your back? Anger surged. That wasn't your money to decide with. It was mine. For my future. She set it up for me, not you. She leaned back, folding her arms, her voice sharp. Don't take that tone with me. I did what was best for this family. You don't know what it's like to carry everyone's weight. You think you're owed something just because Claire wanted to spoil you? Life doesn't work like that. I clenched my fists under the table. So you admit it. You drained them. Her lips thinned. Watch yourself, Emily. You sound ungrateful. Ungrateful. That word cut deeper than any curse. Because in her eyes, everything she did, even the theft, was framed as sacrifice. And any protest from me was painted as selfishness. But this time I didn't back down. There's one left, I said quietly. And this time, you won't touch it. Her eyes snapped to mine, cold and sharp. What do you mean? I talked to the bank, I said. I know exactly what's there. And when it matures, I'm taking it. It's mine. Legally, rightfully mine. And you won't stop me. The silence between us was electric. For the first time in my life, I saw fear flicker across her face. Not sadness, not regret, fear. Then, just as quickly, she masked it with a bitter laugh. So, that's your big rebellion? Taking a bit of money? You think that makes you strong? It makes me free, I whispered. Her smile vanished. She leaned forward, voice low and venomous. Don't you dare cross me, Emily. Don't you forget who raised you, who kept you afloat all these years. You wouldn't even be where you are without me. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. My whole body was shaking, but not with fear. This time, it was with resolve. You're wrong. I am where I am in spite of you. And when that account matures, I'll prove it. I left her sitting there, stunned, her pot roast growing cold on the table. The drive home was a blur. My hands trembled on the wheel, tears stinging my eyes. Not because I was scared, but because for the first time in my life, I'd looked her in the eye and told her no. That night, I called Aunt Claire again. I told her, I said, voice still raw. And she knows. She's furious. But I don't care. For once, I don't care. There was a pause, then Claire's voice, steady and strong. Good. Hold your ground, Emily. She can't take this from you. 3 months felt like a lifetime. Every day, I worried Mom might try something, forge papers, pressure the bank, twist Dad into interfering. But as the weeks crawled by, I realized something. The fear that had always ruled me was shrinking. Every time she called, I let it go to voicemail. Every manipulative text, we need to talk, you're making a mistake, you'll regret this, I ignored. For the first time in years, I was living for me. And as the date drew closer, that ember inside me grew into a blaze. When the morning finally came, I put on my best blazer, tied my hair back, and walked into the bank with my head high. The clerk pulled up my account, confirmed my ID, and smiled. Congratulations, Miss Carter. Your CD has matured. How would you like the funds? For a moment, my throat tightened. All those years of saving, of being robbed, of believing I had nothing, it was all leading here. I'd like to transfer it to my account, I said. My voice didn't shake. The numbers blinked on the screen, and I watched as my balance transformed. From a struggling paycheck-to-paycheck existence into something solid. Something free. I signed the papers, thanked the clerk, and walked out into the sunlight. For the first time in my life, I felt untouchable. And I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about reclaiming myself. My choices. My life. But deep down, I also knew this wasn't over. Mom wouldn't let it go. She never did. And when she came for me again, and I knew she would, I would be ready. This time, I had more than anger. I had proof. When I walked out of that bank with the confirmation slip tucked into my purse, I felt like I was floating. The sun seemed brighter, the air sharper, the city noisier, like the whole world was alive in a way it hadn't been before. For years, I had lived under the weight of my mother's shadow, convinced I had no real power. And yet here I was free.
But freedom has a price.
And I should have known my mother wasn't going to sit quietly while I broke away from her grip. The very next evening, my phone rang. I knew the number before I saw it. My hand hovered over the screen, torn between answering and ignoring it. Finally, I slid my thumb across. Emily, Mom's voice snapped before I could even say hello. I just got off the phone with Janet. She tells me you've been bragging about taking that money. I swallowed hard. I haven't been bragging. I just claimed what was mine. Her voice turned icy. Yours? Nothing in this family belongs to just one person. I kept this family afloat for years, and now you're walking around acting like you're some kind of victim. Don't forget who paid for your clothes, your food, your school. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to stay steady. I haven't forgotten. But that money was mine. Aunt Claire set it up for me. Legally, it's in my name. That's because Claire always had a soft spot for you. Mom spat. She spoiled you, made you think you were better than the rest of us. And now you're taking money that could have helped this family. You're selfish, Emily. Absolutely selfish. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. Once upon a time, her words would have cut me open, left me sobbing.
But now?
They only fueled the fire inside me. No, Mom. You're wrong. I'm finally doing something for myself. And if you think I'm going to hand it over to you or anyone else, you're mistaken. There was silence on the line. Then, a cold laugh. You'll regret this. The call ended, leaving me with a hollow ache in my chest. But beneath it was something stronger. Defiance. Over the next few days, I started noticing things. A message from my bank flagged as suspicious activity. An envelope in my mailbox with no return address, containing a single sheet of paper. Family should share. Don't be greedy. The handwriting was hers. I'd recognize that looping script anywhere. It was intimidation. Her way of reminding me she still thought she had power. One night, as I was leaving work, I found her waiting by my car. My stomach twisted when I saw her leaning against the hood, arms crossed, eyes sharp like daggers. Mom, I said cautiously, gripping my bag. What are you doing here? We need to talk, she said flatly. I shook my head. No, we don't. She stepped closer, her perfume, familiar and suffocating, filling the air. Emily, listen to me. That money doesn't belong to you alone. Your father and I. Dad had nothing to do with this. I snapped, louder than I intended. And neither did you. Aunt Claire made those deposits for me. You just decided you had the right to take them. But not anymore. Her eyes narrowed. You think you're strong now with a little cash in your account? Let me tell you something, Emily. Money doesn't buy loyalty. It doesn't buy love. And when you need this family, when you need me, don't come crawling back. I straightened, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. I don't need your money, Mom. And I sure as hell don't need your permission anymore. The look she gave me then, it wasn't disappointment or even anger. It was hatred. Pure and raw. She stormed off into the night, and I sat in my car shaking, not from fear but from the realization of how far she was willing to go. Days turned into weeks, and her attempts to break me escalated. She called my workplace, spinning lies about me being unstable, hoping to tarnish my reputation. She cornered Aunt Claire at church, accusing her of turning me against the family. She even tried to rope my dad into siding with her, but he stayed silent as always. It was exhausting, living under constant attack. But strangely, it didn't crush me the way it once would have. Every stunt she pulled only reminded me of one thing. I was no longer under her thumb. The breaking point came one Sunday afternoon. I had invited Aunt Claire over to my apartment for coffee, needing her steady presence. As we sat by the window, laughing about some memory from years ago, there was a sharp knock at the door. I opened it to find Mom standing there, eyes blazing, Dad trailing behind her, looking weary and small. "Emily," she hissed, "this has gone on long enough. We're here to settle this." I didn't move. "There's nothing to settle." She pushed past me into the living room, her heels clicking against the floor. "You're going to transfer that money back. Today." Aunt Claire stood, her face pale but resolute. "Linda, stop this. You've taken enough from her. Let it go." Mom whipped around, pointing a finger at her sister. "This is your fault. You planted this wedge between us. You've always resented me, always wanted Emily to love you more than me." The room felt electric, heavy with years of unspoken grievances. I stepped between them, my voice shaking but loud. "Enough. This isn't about you, or Aunt Claire, or anyone else. This is about me finally getting back what was mine all along. And nothing you say will change that." Her face twisted with fury. "You ungrateful little girl. After everything I've done for you." I cut her off. "You didn't do it for me. You did it for control. And I'm done being controlled." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in my life, I saw her speechless. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again, but no words came out. Finally, she turned on her heel, grabbing Dad's arm.
Fine.
"But don't expect us at your door when life knocks you down. You'll see how far you get without family." The door slammed behind them, rattling the walls. I stood there, shaking, tears burning my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release. For the first time, I had stood up not just for the money, but for myself. Aunt Claire hugged me tight, whispering, "I'm proud of you. Don't let her win." As I sank into the couch after she left, I realized something. My mother might keep trying to break me, but I had already won. Because she no longer had the one thing she craved most: control over my life. And as much as it hurt, I knew this was just the beginning. She wasn't done fighting. But neither was I. After that showdown in my apartment, I thought maybe things would quiet down. I thought maybe Mom would stew in silence, complain behind my back, but eventually let it go. But if there's one thing I should have known by then, it's that Linda Carter never let anything go. The following week, I started noticing whispers from my extended family. A cousin texted me out of the blue. "Hey, I heard you took money from your mom. What's going on?" An aunt left a voicemail dripping with disapproval. "Emily, family comes first. You can't just hoard everything for yourself." At first, I was confused. Then it hit me. Mom had started spinning her story to everyone else. I knew her pattern. She had always been a master of twisting narratives. If she couldn't control me directly, she'd control how others saw me. And it worked. Soon, every family gathering invite disappeared. I was selfish Emily, the ungrateful daughter who stole from her parents. One night, I got a call from Dad. His voice was tired, heavy. "Emily, can you just give it back? Your mother's upset. She's losing sleep. It's tearing the family apart." I pressed my fingers to my forehead, fighting the ache behind my eyes. "Dad, listen to me. It was never her money. Aunt Claire set it up for me. Legally, it's mine." "I know," he whispered, his voice breaking. "But you know your mother. She won't stop. Sometimes it's easier to give her what she wants." My throat tightened. That was Dad in a nutshell, always yielding, always smoothing things over. And for years, I had done the same. But not this time. "Dad," I said softly but firmly, "I can't keep paying the price for her choices. If I give in now, I'll be giving in forever." There was silence. Then a sigh. "I just don't want to lose you." "You won't," I said. "But I have to draw the line somewhere." When I hung up, I cried. Not because I doubted myself, but because it hurt to see how tangled her control was, that even Dad couldn't see a way out. The next blow came in the form of an official-looking envelope slipped under my apartment door. My stomach dropped as I opened it. Inside was a letter drafted by a lawyer claiming that my parents had custodial rights over the accounts and that I had unlawfully taken funds belonging to the family. It was laughable, but terrifying all the same. I rushed to Aunt Claire's the next day, letter in hand. She read it, her eyes narrowing. "This is nonsense. Those accounts were in your name from day one. You need to get a lawyer, Emily. Protect yourself." I hated that it had come to this. Family, reduced to threats and paperwork. But she was right. I scheduled an appointment with a lawyer recommended by one of my coworkers. Sitting in his office, I felt small, out of place. The shelves were lined with heavy law books, the walls framed with certificates. He read the letter, then looked up at me with calm certainty. "This has no legal standing," he said. "They can bluster all they want, but the accounts were in your name. If they push further, we can respond formally. But trust me, your mother doesn't want this to go before a judge. She knows she'll lose." Relief washed over me, mixed with something else, vindication. For years, she had manipulated me with words, threats, guilt. But now, for the first time, I had proof, legal proof, that she couldn't win. I walked out of that office with my shoulders a little straighter. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting to her. I was standing my ground with real backing. But of course, Mom didn't back down. When the legal route didn't scare me into compliance, she went for the emotional jugular. At a family barbecue I foolishly decided to attend, she cornered me in front of everyone. The smell of grilled burgers hung in the air, kids ran around laughing, but the tension was thick as she raised her voice. "Do you all know what Emily did?" she announced, her voice cutting through the chatter. Heads turned.
She stole from this family.
She took money meant to help us all and ran off with it. Heat rushed to my cheeks as every eye turned to me. My instinct was to shrink, to disappear. But I didn't. Not this time. "That's a lie," I said, my voice loud and clear. The crowd hushed. That money was given to me. It was set aside in my name. Mom drained most of it over the years, but one account was left. And I claimed it. Because it was mine. Murmurs rippled through the group. Mom's face twisted with rage. "Ungrateful," she hissed. "Selfish. You'll regret humiliating me like this." I held her gaze, steady.
"No, Mom.
"The only thing I regret is letting you control me for so long." The silence that followed was crushing. But for the first time in years, I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't afraid. After that day, something shifted. Some relatives distanced themselves, sure. But others reached out quietly, texts and calls with words like "I didn't know," and "You're stronger than I realized." Not everyone believed her version anymore. And me? I began to realize the real revenge wasn't just in keeping the money. It was in reclaiming myself, piece by piece, choice by choice. Still, I knew Mom wasn't finished. She never stopped until she thought she'd won. But now, I wasn't the girl hiding envelopes under her mattress. I was a woman who had faced her down, in public and in private, and lived to tell the tale. And I was ready for whatever came next. Because this wasn't just about a shoebox of savings anymore. This was about breaking the cycle, about finally being free. I thought the family barbecue would be the climax, that after exposing her lies publicly, my mother would retreat, lick her wounds, and eventually leave me alone. But I underestimated her. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that people like Linda Carter don't stop when they've lost. They double down. They claw, scrape, and grasp until they convince themselves they're back in control. And in her mind, losing to me wasn't an option. It started with the little things. Anonymous notes slipped under my apartment door, scrawled in her handwriting but unsigned. "Blood is thicker than money." Or, "You'll regret crossing your own mother." The first time, I laughed bitterly. The second time, I shredded it and threw it away. But by the fifth note, I stopped laughing. Then came the phone calls, at work, at home, even in the middle of the night. Sometimes it was silence on the other end. Sometimes it was her voice, low and venomous. "You think you're better than me? You'll see how far you get without family. I changed my number. I blocked her. I thought I could outrun her harassment. But Mom always found ways to slip back in. One evening, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My heart pounded as I pushed it open, every muscle tense. Inside, nothing was stolen. But the shoebox I had once hidden under my bed, the one she'd emptied years ago, was sitting on my coffee table. Empty, mocking, out of place. I sank to the floor, trembling. She had been here. She had broken in just to remind me that she could. I called the police, filed a report, even changed the locks. But the officer's words echoed in my head. Without proof it was her, there's not much we can do. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat awake on the couch, clutching a baseball bat, jumping at every creak. The fear crept in, threatening to swallow me whole. But beneath the fear was something else. Fury. I was done living like a prisoner in my own life. The next morning, I called Aunt Claire. My voice was raw, my hands still shaking. She came into my apartment, I said. "Oh, Emily," Claire whispered. "This has gone too far. You need to protect yourself. Not just legally, personally. You can't keep letting her scare you." She was right. For years, Mom had fed on my silence, on my tendency to retreat and endure. But now, I had something she didn't expect. Courage. So I started documenting everything. The notes, the calls, even the shoebox left in my apartment. I saved voicemails, took photos, created a folder of evidence. If she wanted to play this game, I was ready. But even with my preparations, I wasn't ready for what came next. It was a Sunday morning when I decided to drive out to the farmer's market. The sun was warm, the air smelled of fresh bread and flowers. For a few hours, I let myself forget the storm swirling around me. But when I returned to my car, there she was leaning against it like she had every right. "Mom," I said, my stomach dropping. "What are you doing here?" Her eyes glittered with something unhinged. "You think you've won, don't you?" she spat. "Walking around like you're free, like you're untouchable. But you're not. You're nothing without me." I swallowed hard, gripping my bag tighter. "I'm not nothing," I said quietly. "I'm me, and that's enough." Her face twisted, and she stepped closer, her voice rising. "You ungrateful child. After everything I sacrificed, this is how you repay me? By stealing what's mine and turning my own family against me." The parking lot buzzed with people, but in that moment, it felt like it was just the two of us, mother and daughter, locked in a battle years in the making. I took a deep breath. "It was never yours, Mom. Not the money. Not my future. Not me. You've been taking pieces of me my whole life, but this is where it stops." For a moment, she just stared, chest heaving, eyes wild. Then she laughed, sharp and bitter. "You'll regret this. When you're alone, when no one else stands by you, you'll come crawling back. And I won't be there." And then she walked away, leaving me shaking beside my car. I sat inside, hands gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. But slowly, a strange calm settled over me. Because for the first time, I hadn't backed down. I hadn't cowered. I had stood tall and spoken the truth, even as she tried to tear me down. That night, as I sat at my desk, I looked over the folder of evidence I'd collected. I realized something. This wasn't just about surviving her anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice, about drawing a line in the sand so clear that she couldn't cross it again. I drafted a letter with my lawyer's help, a cease and desist order. It was clinical, professional, but it carried the weight of everything I had endured. I sent it off, my hands steady as I sealed the envelope. For days, I heard nothing. No calls, no notes, no surprise visits. The silence was unnerving, like the calm before a storm. But it was also liberating. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, Aunt Claire called. Her voice was warm, proud. "You did it, Emily. You stood up to her. I don't know what comes next, but whatever it is, you've proven you're stronger than her." And she was right. For the first time, I felt it too. Stronger. Lighter. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. My mother wasn't the type to surrender. She would find another angle, another weapon, another way to try to pull me back under. The difference now was simple. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. And if she wanted to keep fighting, then so be it. Because I had already won the most important battle, the one for myself. The cease and desist letter was like striking a match in a dark room. For a while, I didn't know if it would spark or fizzle out. But the silence that followed, it wasn't empty. It was heavy, loaded with the knowledge that Mom had read it, understood it, and realized for the first time that she couldn't scare me into submission anymore. For weeks, there were no phone calls, no late-night knocks, no cryptic notes. My apartment stayed untouched, the locks untested. I could finally breathe, and with every quiet morning I woke up without her shadow looming over me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace doesn't erase the scars. One afternoon, I sat across from Aunt Claire at her kitchen table, sipping tea as sunlight filtered through lace curtains. She studied me with those steady eyes that always seemed to see more than I wanted to show. "You've been quiet," she said softly. "How are you really feeling?" I set my cup down, the clink of porcelain loud in the silence.
Relieved.
Stronger. But also sad. Angry. I keep thinking about all the years she stole from me. Not just the money, the chances, the trust, the belief that I mattered. Claire reached over, squeezing my hand. "She can't give those back. But you can build new ones. You've already started." Her words sank deep, wrapping around the ache in my chest like a bandage. For so long, I defined myself by what my mother took from me. Now, maybe it was time to define myself by what I was taking back. That night, I opened a fresh notebook and began writing. Not for her, not even for Aunt Claire, for me. I poured out everything. The shoebox under the mattress, the day I found it gone, the bank account she drained, the final confrontation in that parking lot. Each page was a piece of my story reclaimed. And as I wrote, something shifted. The anger didn't vanish. It hummed beneath my skin like a low current, but it no longer consumed me. Instead, it fueled me. 3 months later, I stood in a bank again. But this time, I wasn't trembling with nerves or anger. I was calm, determined. I'd decided exactly what I would do with the money. The clerk smiled politely as I signed the last form. "Would you like this in a savings account or to invest, Miss Carter?" "Invest," I said without hesitation. "But not just anywhere. I want to put it towards something that matters." I explained my plan, starting a scholarship fund in my name for young women from families like mine. Women who'd been told their dreams didn't matter, who'd been robbed of choices by people who were supposed to love them. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was something better. It was transformation. As the paperwork finalized, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For years, that money had been a symbol of loss, of betrayal. Now it was a symbol of freedom, of building something new from the ashes of what she destroyed. Later that evening, I got a call from Dad. His voice was soft, hesitant. "Your mother knows," he said simply, "about what you did with the money." My chest tightened. "And she's furious. Says you're making a fool of her. Says you're ungrateful." He paused. "But Emily, I don't think she realizes what you've gained. I don't think she ever will." There was sadness in his voice, a quiet resignation. For a moment, my heart ached for him. Caught between loyalty to his wife and love for his daughter, never strong enough to stand fully on either side. "I love you, Dad," I said softly. "But I can't keep living for her approval. I have to live for me." "I know," he whispered, "and I'm proud of you." When the call ended, I sat in silence, tears rolling down my cheeks. Not because I doubted myself, but because for the first time, I believed him. Weeks turned into months, and my mother's attempts to reach me dwindled. Maybe she was tired, maybe she realized she couldn't win, or maybe she simply moved on to a new narrative where she was the victim and I was the villain. Either way, I stopped caring. Because I wasn't living in her story anymore. I was living in mine. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, breathing in the quiet. My phone buzzed, A message from one of the scholarship applicants, a young woman named Sarah. Thank you for this chance. People like me don't usually get opportunities like this. I smiled through my tears, the glow of the screen warm against the desk. That was the moment it all came full circle. The betrayal that once defined me had become the fuel for something greater. My mother may have stolen years from me, but she hadn't broken me. She'd built me, in a twisted way, because without her betrayal, I might never have learned how strong I could be. I raised my glass to the fading sky. To freedom, I whispered. To finally being mine. And for the first time in my life, I believed it.